The winning numbers for the evening draw of Tuesday, 23rd March 2021 were tic-tac-toe, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18, Big 4, 1, 4, 7, 9, Pick 2, 4, 5, Multi-X, FP, 1 off, 2, 0, 5, Lucky 3, 7, 1, 6, Super 6, 3, 6, 12, 15, 17, 22, free ticket letter N.
You're watching MBC.
At Raj Communications, we
Good night, St. Lucia, and welcome to another episode of Police Insight. I am your host, Sergeant Zachary Hippolyte of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. I'd like to say good night to our Commissioner of Police, Mr. Milton Daisy. Good night to our deputies, our assistant commissioners, gazette officers, inspectors, sergeants, corporals, and constables. Good night to you. Special police constables, special reserve officers. Good night to you all. Our peace officers, good night to you. Those who have left us for greener pastures, I hope. Ex-police officers, good night to you. Thank you for your service. Those of you in law enforcement, St. Lucia Fire Service, Customs, the Port Police, Bodily Correctional Facility, good night to you all. Last Tuesday, couldn't have a show. Yours truly, let me just take out those glasses. You know the new normal with the with the mask fogging up the glasses. So last Tuesday we couldn't have a show. So I apologize for that. I had a little bit of an issue that I just had to take some time to take care of, but I'm very happy that I'm back with you for a new episode. And this is where you tell a friend to tell a friend that Police Insight is on. Some pre-shout outs before we continue. I'd like to say good night to Mr. and Mrs. Volney, the Volney family, newlyweds of Dermo Moshi. I'd like to say good night to you. And the crew at Breadfruit Corner Restaurant and Bar in Lafayette. We're talking about Mary, Kashama, and Francisca. I'd like to say good night to you and thank you all for tuning in. And those of you, also we're live streaming on Facebook, NBC Television St. Lucia. This is what you have to look for. Click that link and get involved. We have two distinguished gentlemen with us tonight. But just before I introduce them, as usual, always have a bit of a chat of what's on my mind. And we had what is being dubbed a bloody weekend. A lot occurred. Individuals lost their lives in shootings, and it's really a sad thing. So from shootings to vehicular incidents, accidents, to the most bizarre of animals being treated with serious cruelty. It has been a crazy weekend. It has been very daunting for law enforcement, police, emergency services. Our peace officers continue to try to do their best. And it's when you look at especially social media where sometimes you wonder if some of our citizenry people, what really are they looking for when we could take to social media so easily and condone criminality, condone crime? And when I say condone, I'll explain. Because one could say, all right, this gentleman decided to steal something because he was hungry, and you could be empathetic. But when you reach to the point where individuals are literally looking for all far out reasons as to why people should behave in a lawless manner, lawless behavior, you know, from all type of reasons. And I'm not going to mention some of them because some of you will probably say I'm attacking particular individuals or particular groups. But what I wish to say, what were to happen if the tables were to turn? What would you still have that stance if someone is now trespassing on your property? Someone has now entered your home. Would you now have the stance of, hey man, you know, you entered my home because you had a right to do it. Maybe because you were frustrated, maybe because you were confused, maybe because you were hungry. So you had the right to enter my home, threaten my privacy, threaten the unity in my home, cause my family members to have sleepless nights. You know? Or some individual deciding to who knows, set up some form of refreshment shop to the entrance of your driveway. Would you accept that? Would that be okay with you? And then this individual is telling you, I believe that's where I should set up my refreshment stand because it's a nice road. There are lots of residents there, causing inconvenience to you. You know, people, the police are trying their best. Law-abiding citizens are trying their best. And there's always more we can do. There's always more we can do. And we are trying. We're all human beings. We all falter. We're all not perfect. But it's amazing how social media has given rise to, yes, say whatever we want, whatever we wish, as long as it does not constitute to a crime. And even some time ago, you know, the organization, through Superintendent Judge Nicholas, put out a statement when it came to the senseless killing of Humina Lord, the secretary of the Grosley Minibus Association. You know, very senseless. And we've had a few senseless, yeah? And individuals are wondering, why would the organization be so quick to point out that there is no information, evidence, or any fact that dearly departed Miss Lord was an informant for the police. Some said, but it makes no sense. There was no reason for the police to say that. Some say that, you know, it shows that we don't care or we're not showing empathy, and that is far from the truth. Every time somebody is murdered in this country, police officers, genuine police officers, okay, from the hierarchy down to the person at the bottom of the ladder is concerned. Because when such things are allowed to continue in that way, any of us could be next. Brazen killing where criminals do not fear being caught, where criminals do not fear being seen, where criminals do not fear any form of consequence to their actions. So the organization put out that statement, not to try to distance ourselves from what occurred, which is totally senseless, but to show you that it's that criminals would try to give the impression that there are individuals who are informants and they can even be protected by the police. They're going to give you that impression that if you inform, that term inform, Jamaican slang, snitch, however you want to call it, that your life is at peril. So they'll put out voice notes, And you have no idea who's behind the voice notes, but some of you just like to listen to it. To give you this impression that if you were to do what is right, what is expected of you as a law-abiding citizen, to give information to the police of criminal activity, that you might as well be counting your last days on earth. And that is in the vein in which the organization made that statement. Because let it be and say nothing. Those criminals and those out there, sorry, with this type of mentality would use the silence from the organization to perpetuate this thinking that you should not assist the police in giving information about criminal activity. And that is far from the truth. That's not the case. What a weekend it has been in St. Lucia. And there's a lot that needs to be done. There's a lot we are doing. There's a lot more that we would like to do. But that's for another show, because we have two guests here. Two distinguished gentlemen right here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce them. So first of all, to my immediate right, and they're both representing the Boys Training Center, ladies and gentlemen. And I know, you know, for those of you who have, those of you who watch news, those of you who watch particular talk shows, those of you, of course, who, mostly everybody's on social media. When it comes to the Boys Training Center, you know, there have been discussions. I think that institution has been under public scrutiny for a long time. Yeah, so I was very happy when I reached out to the Boys Training Center, and the director, especially the director, was so welcoming and so into the idea that, you know, the BTC should come on the show and at least give their side and let St. Lucia know exactly what happens in that institution. Because some of us don't know, and we hear so much misinformation out there. So first of all, to my immediate right, a counselor from the Boys Training Center, that is Mr. Patrick Ferron. Am I correct, Mr. Ferron? Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, Mr. Hippolyte, you got it right. Thank you.
Good night to you, sir.
Good night.
Thank you for coming on Police Insight.
My pleasure.
And to my far right, next to Mr. Ferron, is none other but the director of the Boys Training Center, Mr. Wang Sonson. Mr. Sonson, how are you doing, sir?
I'm alright. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a pleasure. You know, so first of all, let's tell St. Lucia a little bit about yourself. So let's start with you, Mr. Patrick Ferron. Give St. Lucia a little history about yourself.
Okay, so I won't be too long because that history may go on until the AM. So I'd like to mention a few things about me, especially with respect to the fact that persons know me as working at the Boys Training Center, and a few years back they would have recognized me as working under what was then the Ministry of Social Transformation, now Ministry of Equity. And I also work as a counselor with the Employee Assistance Program of the Public Service of St. Lucia, of the government of St. Lucia.
Okay.
And some persons know me also as an ordained minister who is non-denominational. So if you're Catholic, or you're Baptist, or you're Presbyterian, or you're Church of God, or Adventist, I work as comfortably with you as I work with anybody else. And as you were giving those opening comments, I was thinking, yes, my first 5 years as a public servant was spent in Jamaica working as a police officer. So many people don't realize that this fella here, he knows the different angles from which you can come at the social fabric of any nation. And of course, here in St. Lucia, where we have so many issues grappling with at the same time. And I look at the problems as they come at us from those three perspectives, where you can see it through the laws of the eyes of law enforcement. You can see it through the eyes of what you may call the theological perspective. What is going on with the spiritual shape or the spiritual health? And as a mental health counselor, to see things also through the eyes of the psychologist. And I generally try to bring these three dimensions to look at how we can best serve and help our country in dealing with significant problems that not just here in St. Lucia, but everywhere.
That's right.
We're dealing with them. As you were talking about the situation with the police officers, and to recognize that in the USA, in Colorado, we had a mass shooting yesterday. And there was a police officer who was killed, leaving behind 7 children. And in just the same way we talk about Miss Lord and just the wicked situations that we see confronting us every day, and the pain, because those persons who commit those heinous acts, they don't even realize the stretch of pain and anguish and suffering that they leave behind.
That's right.
And then persons will have to be there for the well-being of society to help to pick up the pieces so that we can, and we will get over it, we will get to that place. We cannot lose that hope. But it takes a lot out of all of us who are on the front lines doing what needs to be done to help our country move forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ferron. That's definitely an introduction, ladies and gentlemen. So you know what's in store. And then Mr. Wang Son. Yes,
sir.
Sir, Director, could you give St. Lucia tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, good night to everyone, to all your viewers out there. First of all, let me start where Mr. Ferron left off, and my condolences goes out to the relatives of the persons that we lost over the weekend. It's indeed a very sad situation to see that in our small island, you don't know, even at work, you are not safe anymore. So we need, I think the police needs the support of the general public in really putting these matters to rest and finding the persons who perpetrate these heinous acts of violence in our country. Okay, so my name is Wang Son. I'm presently the manager of the Boys Training Center. In a previous life, 1997, I joined the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. During my time at the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, I worked in not many departments. I worked at Central Police Station, and then I was transferred to the drug unit, where I spent the majority of my time. In 2006, I moved on to the Bermuda Police Service. There I really got a full policing experience, where I worked in various departments. Community policing was the first department that I really worked in, and got to see a different side of policing, from strictly enforcement to actually providing a service to people, dealing with young children that may have been in harm's way in the home, referring them to Child and Family Services, vulnerable women, assisting them. And I also worked at the police support unit, and that is where I got promoted to the rank of sergeant. And from there I worked in various departments, various stations. I was the custody sergeant, responsible for all prisoners around the island coming into custody, making sure that the rights were seen after. If they needed an interpreter, if they were not English speaking persons, their first language wasn't English, then I had to get an interpreter for them. I had to make sure that the medication was on time, and whilst they were in my custody, that everything was on point with them. So that was one of my core responsibilities. I also worked as a patrol sergeant in in a station called St. George's. That's to the east of the island, where at the time I was responsible for all patrols in that part of the island. And I continued, my experience in Bermuda was mostly about community policing. Community policing is a big thing there. So I got to see, as I said, a different side of policing, a softer side to policing, a side to policing where it's about the customer come first, the public comes first, you know. And even when you give that force, because there must be force in policing, even when you give that force, then the softer side comes in and reassures the public afterwards. So this is really my grounding. I also pursued education in law, security management and public administration, and now I'm at the Boys Training Center, and my aim there is to really change the lives of some of these boys, or all of them if I can.
How long have you been at the Boys Training Center as manager, as director?
It's just over 4 years now.
Over 4 years?
Almost going on to 5. November will be 5 years.
And Mr. Ferron, how long have you been there?
Since 2008, so which means 12 years going on 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so you have a nice mixture of experience here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'd like to know, you know, I grew up in Massad, Girls LA, and I have those memories, those vivid memories of when my father used to take me to school, and then he used to say to me, "Son, you see that building over there? If you don't behave yourself, this is where you're going to end up." And then I knew it, ladies and gentlemen, as the Massad Boys School. So, gentlemen, can you give us a little history of the Boys Training Center?
Okay, so the Boys Training Center was actually founded in 1960.
1960.
Yes, so we're talking about an institution that has been around for decades.
61 years.
Yes, and when you think about its history, you have to also think about, well, what was going on, why they came up with the idea to form the Boys Training Center. Well, at the time, back in late 1950s, going on into 1960, there were these boys who terrorized Castries. They call them the wharf rats.
Okay.
They would pick on tourists. They would commit petty crimes. They would be a nuisance to the development of Castries back then. And so there were always all kinds of situations that were created where persons would come and they talk and say, well, what can we do about what is happening to these boys? They're not staying in school. They're running away from home. They're loitering on the streets. So they tried different things, like put some of them in some programs where they would use their energy for boxing, but nothing concrete was there to really use their energy and redirect them in a proper way. So when they finally got around to launching the Massad Industrial School, that's what it was called then.
Okay.
They had a kind of structure which was basically geared towards taking these troublemakers off the streets. You can't really put them in a prison, so put them somewhere, put them in an industrial school and help them. Now, interestingly, because that's part of what we'll talk about this evening too, Mr. Celestin, Harleton Celestin, who was the first director of the Boys Training Center, he was a teacher. I think he was teaching at the college, or he did some teaching at the college. And when the opportunity came for a director to be put in place with the founding of the school, he was qualified as a teacher.
I see.
And then he came in, but it didn't last long. And one of the things that he said in an interview that was published in the St. Lucia Star about 3 years ago, he said he was a trained teacher, but he did not know how to work with delinquent boys. So they are very good people who can contribute a lot to the society, but they may not necessarily have been cut out to work with the delinquent boys. So we had a lot of issues in those early years. Still, the Massad Industrial School was closed by 1974. And they got one of those individuals who specialize in, let's study this issue, let's see how we can move forward properly with the times, with the understandings that we now have, whether in psychology or child development or behavioral change and all of those things. So in 1976, the government put together, with the help of these experts who came in to study what was really going on, and they decided, yes, we have had enough now, we can reopen the school. So after about a year and a half period, 74, maybe 74 to 1976, they reopened, calling it then the Boys Training Center. And so, in a significant way, what we are now as an institution is an evolution of what was restarted in 1976 to ever increasing understanding as to how we can best accomplish the task at hand. It's not perfect, but we are growing, and I hope as we talk this evening we can see a number of ways in which we would have grown over the years to be accomplishing what we're accomplishing now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ferron, for that insight into way back, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, way back. Okay, so then what is the center? Tell us about the roles, the responsibilities, objectives, structure of the center.
All right, so the Boys Training Center is a juvenile detention / rehabilitation center which caters to boys between the ages of 10 to 18. We have two categories of boys that are in need of care and protection, and boys that are in conflict with the law.
Care and protection and conflict with the law.
Care and protection meaning that they may have some issues at home, dysfunctional households, and they may need to be taken away from that household, so they are brought to us. They may be truant when it comes to school. They will be taken to us. And juvenile offenders, usually the boys who come for care and protection come through the human services.
Okay, because I was wondering how they get there in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're taken to the courts. They have a case worker taken to the courts and then sent to us. The juvenile offenders, it's usually through probations or the police, and then they end up coming to the center. At the center, we have a number of programs, educational, educational, therapeutic. We also have sporting programs, we have music programs, we have different programs, a holistic approach to rehabilitating the boys. On staff, we have a manager, we have an assistant manager, we have 4 counselors on staff, we have a counseling unit, we have social worker, we have a chief warden, we have a house mother. The house mother's role really is to look after the overall welfare of the boys.
House mother?
Yeah, a house mother.
Okay.
So the boys need medical attention. She's the one to look after the medical needs. They have medical appointments and whatnot. She's the main person who does that and make sure that they have all the hygienic products and everything always. The social worker will be going to the appointments, school appointments, look after their schoolwork, do home visits and whatnot. We also have an activities coordinator who plans activities for the center, be it for the boys or for staff as a whole. We have wardens and security officers. These persons are at the center on a 24-hour basis because the center is residential, so it never closes. So these persons are the ones who are at the center on a 24-hour basis. We have instructors. Right now we have 3 vocational instructors. We have 2 classroom teachers. We also have cooks and domestics and a driver. So this is the composition of the center. Everybody has their role to play. And we all work together. As you can see, as you heard from Mr. Ferron, we have some very experienced persons when it comes to the counseling department. And we are fortunate enough that we have these counselors on the compound. In some institutions, you don't have counselors on compound, and we have them right there at the center to whatever needs that the boys may need, they're there to provide that therapeutic intervention to them.
Now, gentlemen, okay, no, let us take that break first, Shane. We're going to take a quick break, let's pay some bills, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned to Police Insight.
Okay.
Lithium Free, and the proud recipient of the 2018, 2019, and 2020 Grand Gold Mond Selection Quality Award. Our choice is clear, crystal clear.
It's all about the high life.
Yes, it's definitely about the high life. The high life with Prime Life by Digicel. Live the Prime Life this month and be one of 4 winners of $1,500 cash. Activate any Digicel Prime bundle. Upgrade to a postpaid Prime bundle. Download the Digicel app or become a new Digicel customer to qualify. 4 winners, $1,500 each. It's the high life with Prime Life by Digicel.
It's all about the high life. It's all about the high life.
COVID-19 stigma will not protect you.
I don't want that child playing with my child.
He better stay away from me.
Be kind during COVID-19. Follow all protocols.
That disease I have no cure.
Mika COVID. Learn the facts about the virus.
Me, I'm not working with any COVID person.
She better stay away from me.
Let's not turn fear into stigma. A message from the St. Lucia Red Cross.
Why are you suffering from aches, pains, and illnesses? When there's help for you. At Health Service Center, we offer a wide range of treatment that has been scientifically proven to help you with your aches, pains, and illnesses. Our ICT machine is one of the most effective devices in the health field. It has shown positive results in many health problems, such as back pains, shoulder pains, migraine headaches, pain in the knees and legs, poor circulation, arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, numbness in the feet, strokes, and sports injuries. ICT, repairs, rebuild. The power to heal, the future of pain relief.
Aging gracefully is the hope for everyone. But when you age prematurely, most people think that something is wrong with you. The natural enzymes and building blocks in your skin start to deplete. So fine or deep lines and wrinkles appear, making you look much older than you really are. At Derma Clinic, we can help repair your skin and change the way you look in minutes. These treatments will make you look younger. At Derma Clinic, we treat all kinds of skin problems, such as facial lines, dark circles around the eyes, crow's feet, and frown lines, using all-natural hyaluronic acid filler. So maintain and improve your facial appearance. For more information, call 453-6417 or 485-9818.
All for great savings, right? Flow gives you up to $80 a month off your mobile by just adding it to your home bundle. Enjoy the fastest internet speeds and free mobile calls from your home phone, plus HBO and free internet speed upgrade. That's more value while you spend less. Switch today, bundle and save up to $80 a month off your mobile. Call us at 1-800-804-2994 or visit us in store. Flow, keeping you connected. Terms and conditions apply.
You're watching MBC.
Welcome back to Police Insight. Your host here, Sergeant Zachary Hippolyte of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. In studio with me, we have the director / manager, how you want to put it, of the Boys Training Center, Mr. Wang Sonson, and also Counselor Patrick Ferron, also of the Boys Training Center. So I see those of you in the chat there, in the Facebook chat. Thank you for supporting us as usual. Post your comments there, post your questions, and hopefully I could refer some of them to our guest. So let's continue, gentlemen. Gentlemen, earlier on, Mr. Sonson, before we took the break, you informed us that the center caters to, you could say, two disparities, the different types of boys, those needing care and protection, and also those in conflict with the law. The perception out there in the public is that they cannot see how the center could easily deal with this issue of having those two sets of boys needing two different sets of dealing with at the same institution. Can you give us an insight, Mr. Sonson, Mr. Ferron, as to how does this work? Does it actually work?
Okay, so let me take this one, because I've been at the center since 2008, as I mentioned earlier. And one of the things I knew that existed when I first came on board is that you had one unit, meaning the old building, which was divided. When you go upstairs, you have one section that the small boys or the care and protection boys used to occupy, and the big boys were in the other section. But it was technically one unit. Not many people realize that in recent years, the Boys Training Center actually has a care and protection unit separate and apart from the juvenile offenders unit. Not many people realize that. Now, at the care and protection unit, if you were to do, you can do a flyover or do whatever, you can check it out. It's a completely encased section with its own gate, fencing, everything.
Own gate and own fencing.
Yes, that is totally surrounded and protected, as it were, from the outside. Now, what the reality is this, that some people do not understand, and it is important that persons understand this. In the care and protection unit, where you may have somebody who was placed at the Boys Training Center for care and protection, but who may be a 17-year-old, 250-pound kid, maybe with behavioral problems more than even the juvenile offenders, and at that unit you're going to have 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds, small children. How does the center effectively deal with that in a responsible way? That is one of the things that many people do not understand. So in certain cases, you could have a boy who is designated care and protection, but he does not necessarily live, as it were, in the care and protection unit, because it would defeat the purpose. Now, what many people do not understand also is this. When you say a boy is at the institution for care and protection, it doesn't necessarily mean that these kids are little angels who have no behavioral problems, who will never curse or threaten or stuff. So all the different ingredients of what we may call problematic behaviors, you will find those even in care and protection kids. And let's be open.
Let's be open.
In my time at the Boys Training Center, I have known of cases where persons came in as a care and protection kid for offenses like firearm possession. But you see, when you go before the court and you analyze and you assess and you look at, well, what are the different factors that led this? So this kid was already carrying a gun, but there are so many other factors associated with it that by the time a decision is made in court, care and protection kid. So the point I want persons to understand, it does not mean that just because a kid is designated care and protection, oh, woe is the Boys Training Center for mixing that care and protection kid with somebody who is a juvenile offender, where sometimes the juvenile offender is so much better behaved than many of the care and protection kids, because the factors that generally lead some kids to be deemed necessary to be pulled from their family to be placed at the center would have been some of these factors that contribute to behavioral anomalies in children. And so by the time some of these care and protection kids come to the center, their pattern of behavior would have been so deeply ingrained and in a negative way that unless persons understand what we're actually dealing with, they don't even know what they're talking about, to just stay afar, criticize, condemn, and find fault and point a finger. Persons need to come on board, volunteer, give up some time, and things too.
People could actually contact the center and decide on a weekend they wish to volunteer some time to assist. That could happen, Mr. Sonson?
Mr. Hippolyte, if you watch me, every time I speak in the media, I always welcome persons to come to the center. Because at the center we have nothing to hide. We work in the best interest of the boys that are there. So I'm always inviting the public. And surprisingly, when persons come to the center for the first time, they leave with a different impression. So the invitation is always there. Just call and you can come in. We have a vetting process for volunteers. Persons just cannot come in and volunteer because we have to protect the rights of these children.
That's right.
So Mr. Ferron is one of the persons who preps people that are coming in as volunteers.
Okay.
So, but persons are always welcome to come in. This is not a secret society.
I'm really happy to hear that, and I'm definitely going to inform some of my groups.
Yes.
I'm in plenty groups that we can give a helping hand.
As a matter of fact, one of our plans for this year is to establish a mentorship program, the center's own mentorship program.
Excellent.
So
I'd like to come on board on that, Mr.
Definitely.
Sonson.
Well, we'll work together and make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Some sectors of society, we've heard it. They believe that the individuals employed at the center, especially those responsible for, I guess, behavioral change, rehabilitation, they are not qualified to do so. Which one of you would like to speak to that or dispel such information?
Let me just say that every staff who works at the Boys Training Center should be responsible for behavioral change. Every single one. But I guess they are talking about our counselors. We have 3 counselors who work directly. They are assigned boys to work with. All of them are at the level of a master's degree in their field. Mr. Ferron, I believe, has 2 master's degrees. Yes. So there are persons that are highly qualified at the center working with this boys. As Mr. Ferron told you, he is also a counselor for the public service employee assistance program. So these are persons that are highly sought after for their expertise.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, what are the rights of the wards? Is that a perfect term to use?
Yeah, wards of the states.
Wards of the states, yeah.
Call them boys.
Boys, yeah. But for the people out there who might wonder, what does he talk about when he says wards? The boys. What are the rights of the boys at the BTC? Can you inform us?
Okay, well, we go by the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, right?
Okay.
But at the BTC, we have a handbook. When the boys come in, they meet with the counselors during the first periods at the center, and they will be informed of their rights. I have some of these rights here for you.
No problem.
I will read it out. Okay, they have the right to expect that they will be treated respectfully, impartially, and fairly, and shall be addressed by name in a dignified conversational tone. They have the right to be informed of the rules, procedures, and schedules concerning the operation of the rehabilitation facility. They have the right to not be subjected to corporal punishment, and that's a big one, harassment, intimidation, threats, harm, assault, humiliation, or the interference of normal bodily function. They have a right not to be discriminated against because of race, national origin, color, creed, sex, or physical handicap, and will have equal access to all services and programs. They have the right to participate in religious services and religious counseling on a voluntary basis, subject only to the limitation necessary to maintain order and security. They will have access to clergy, spiritual advisors, publications and related services which allow them to adhere to the appropriate religious practices. They have the right to nutritious meals, proper bedding and clean clothing, daily showers, toilet facilities, adequate lighting, proper ventilation for warmth and fresh air, and an overall safe environment maintained in compliance with local fire and health regulations. They have the right to both indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities and equipment. Any limitations imposed will be to maintain safety, security, and order. They have the right to report any problems or complaints concerning their care while in the facility without fear of punishment in accordance with the grievance procedure. They have the right to appeal any disciplinary measures taken against them for the violation of a facility rule, and the right to have a response to their appeal in accordance with the grievance procedure. And children shall not be disciplined for speaking out or attempting to speak out on matters of concern to them.
That's written there.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I think I could ask you that, Mr. Patrick Ferron. Will you be able to tell us some of the strategies or programs used in terms of trying to assist those young minds in a rehabilitation process or changing their thought patterns from delinquency, etc.?
Okay, so here is something again that many persons who may just point fingers at Mossad, what they don't understand. Some of the world's top-notch rehabilitative programs, such as the one that we know it as the ART program, the Aggression Replacement Training Program, and that is one program that I strongly advocate to be part of the school system in St. Lucia. And I'm saying this because I know it was mentioned some years ago that it would become part of the curriculum. But in short, it is a program, it is described as a cognitive behavioral program that uses anger control as part of its program. It uses social skills training as part of its program, and it also uses moral thinking, moral reasoning, moral development. It's a 10-week program, and during that 10 weeks, when we would actually have 30 sessions, 31-hour sessions, children or young persons would be aided to see how they can then, instead of just reacting in those ways that gets them into trouble all the time, keep them in a cycle of problems and aggression leading to bad choices, bad decisions, and just can't get out. A program like that guides them and shows them from deep within how they can get out of that. We hear a lot of talk in society about persons, they need to learn some conflict management or how to deal with problems when they come up. Well, we have a program like that, which is a part of the Boys Training Center's curriculum. Now, there are certain stipulations to the program, such as you'd have to have a certain number of boys before it can be run effectively. So, for example, you'd need to have at least 10 boys put in the program. But that is the same program that if we have 10 boys in a school, or 10 girls, it doesn't matter, or 10 persons in the community, or whatever, why don't we then see how even through the Boys Training Center and persons, it's not just Boys Training Centers, individuals who are training, there are persons at probations, even at Borderley, who have the training and the requisite skill to work in an intensive way in the communities to help bring about some of these changes that we want to see in the society. There are too many people running around with aggression and don't even understand, you can gain control of that factor that's in you, causing you to be in a cycle of aggression and trouble day after day. Why don't you have a program running for these persons that they can then see, yes, We don't have to behave in those ways. There's a better way we can do that. And so you think about a program like that we have available. You think about programs that help them. Many of the schools have it too, the Why Try program, which is one of those programs that help kids to see basically some of the same issues in the art program, where you can't just expect the get rich quick, the quick path to success, the I want it now formula. That will not work. There is a stage that we have to go through, one stage at a time, in order to be successful. We take the kids through that. We have, I could go on, but we have enough programs that we use to help the kids in such a way that some persons who don't understand that may think, well, okay, so they send that boy to Mossad. Oh, so he goes to junior prison. He just sits down, eat, sleep, can't wait to get out to give trouble. That is so contrary to what actually goes on at the center. And it's time that St. Lucia becomes more educated in what the truth is and what really goes on, and we can tell it to you.
Boys don't just drop from the sky, they are made through parents. How supportive have parents been in terms of they assisted the center in the rehabilitation of their kids?
Mr. Sampson, I know your answer, but I'm burning to just say this. Parents, understand this. Take it from those who are on the ground at the nation's juvenile institution. We have seen, and I'm not talking about just what's written in textbooks or you study at universities. We have seen it firsthand over the years. You see those children who may start presenting behavioral problems or have difficulties, whether in school or in the community. Your investment in their lives as they are being rehabilitated has proven to be one of the singular best strategies that you can see leading on a path to genuine rehabilitation of children. If the parents are invested in the children as we work with them, as we as professionals work with them, it's like night from day. But when children come to the institution and there's not investment of the parental support in their lives, then you know sooner or later something is going to show down the road that these children, in addition to what is being done for them at the center, they need the investment of primary caregivers, or the guardians, grandmother, grandfather, whoever. But children need not just the state care staff working with them, but the investment of the next of kin or the guardians to be a part of the team. And it's night from day when you see the results as they come out.
Just walking on what Mr. Ferron have said, it's amazing that probably about 2 to 3 years ago, we had over 30-something boys at the center, and we would have a call-a-parent meeting, and you would hardly get 10 parents showing up. And in my experience there, most of the children that have succeeded during their time at the center, the parents were strongly involved in what was taking place. And you would know this boy will succeed because of the support he has. If the parent is not there, he has a relative who's always there to support him.
You see that? Oh.
So it's a big factor. The parents play a big factor. We have boys that probably therefore, one boy spent as long as 8 years there, and he had no one to come and look after him. We tried our best with him, but at the end of the day, when he leaves the center, he does not have that support that is needed.
I see.
So the parents, it's a big plays a big factor in their success. And you would see that the boy is there. There's no one involved in his life. The moment that something were to happen at the center involving that boy, people would come out of the woodworks now. All of a sudden they would come out of the woodworks. And it's not that I say this because I've been there going on to 5 years. And in my almost 5 years at the center, there's been 3 incidents of note at the center. 3. It's not that we would rather they have none.
Yes.
But there's been 3. We're working with children that are from dysfunctional communities, dysfunctional households, dysfunctional backgrounds. And you would expect that every day. All these children know, they don't know conflict resolution, they don't know mediation technique. All they know is to get at each other. And for us to only, during that time, have 3 incidents of note, it's saying a lot as to what we do, as to the measures that we put in place. But as I said, 1 incident is too many.
Yes.
And that is what we are working on, to see that we lessen these incidents.
If a ward misbehaves, does something which is not accepted, how does the center deal with it? Is there a disciplinary process, and if so, how?
Okay, so as would be the case in established juvenile institutions, there is what we refer to as a behavior management system. The behavior management system is, you could call it a formula that deals with not only bad behavior, but when you do the right things, you are positively reinforced in a way that will promote something in you to keep going in that positive direction. But it takes into consideration too that if you misbehave, there's a whole list of consequences that could come from it. For example, it may be a situation where a verbal apology to the group would suffice, or where the parents would be brought in and a confrontation is made so that the boy is really made to see what his behavior looks like in the eyes of the parents and staff. It could be a situation where the police could actually be called in, where let's say a boy stabs another boy or stabs a staff, so the consequences are there. But we like to look at it where we focus a lot on what we refer to as positive reinforcement, where we encourage the staff to be on the lookout. I know for some kids you may have to use a magnifying glass, but look for something positive or good in how the child conducts himself. Okay, he didn't used to do his fatigues or his duties, but he started doing it, not perfectly, but he's doing it halfway. Help him to see that is such a better thing for you to be doing now. Remember, you were in an attitude, you said you vowed you would not do it, but look at you, you started doing it. We knew you had it in you, and we want to encourage you, because you know how your mom or your dad would feel to hear this now. And those little things, they go a long way in promoting positive patterns of behavior in children.
So there is no such thing as locking up a ward in some solitary confinement or for something they've done.
No, it's not. There's nothing like solitary confinement. What you would get is that if a ward is so much, how would I say it? He's acting out and he needs to be controlled, he would be locked up until he calms down.
Okay.
But there's nothing like solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement, starving them of food.
No.
Beating them with objects.
The statutory rules 1976 gives the director the authorization to give a boy strokes.
Okay.
I can tell you, before corporal punishment was abolished in the schools, I had already abolished it at Boys Training Center.
Okay.
So we do not hit boys. If it is done, we take it very seriously. We do not do that. So there's nothing like depriving boys of food. As a matter of fact, you should see on a daily basis, the boys have a break time and a staff member is passing around to give the boys snacks around the compound. So we don't deprive. That's one thing we will never do. Deprive them of food.
Yes. Now, let's look at it from the standpoint of what we actually do, as also in light of what happens sometimes Do things ever fall through the cracks? Yes, we don't pretend to be a perfect place. There, just like with any institution, if you're talking about the church, if you're talking about the medical profession, if you're talking about the schools, whatever profession there is, you're not going to have 100% following, towing the line, doing everything in accordance with what it should be. As I said, I was a police officer for 5 years in Jamaica. I know it. It's not. So, is the boys training center perfect? No. Are staff members perfect? No. Do we ever have bad eggs? Yes. Do boys create all kinds of problems sometimes? Yes. Do boys get treated in ways at times where somebody will look at it and say, no, that's not right? Yes. But what we have in place are the appropriate intervention models or steps that when things go awry, when things go how they should not be done, we don't turn a blind eye to it. And so there may be some in the society who have the perception that people can do anything at the boys training center and get away with it. That's not true. We have too many professionals on board who put their profession on the line to say there are certain things we stand for, there are certain things we do not stand for. And it's when situations happen and some persons may hear of things that, oh well, did you hear that they lock up this boy or whatever? There are always so many other sides to the story. Yes, it could be a situation that somebody may have started out on the wrong foot. But the Boys Training Center as an institution has not, and I repeat, has not given any license for any of the breaches to the list of things that Mr. Sanson went through. There is no license given to anybody to breach any of those, to transgress the rights of children or to do anything contrary to what it should be, and that is just ignored or we pretend it's not going on.
Okay, excellent. I'm just soaking in all the information and I hope you are too. We are going to take a break. When we come back, let's hear about the achievements, success stories of the Boys Training Center and then your calls. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Sidil, and you may know some of my hits like this one.
Don't play with man. Man pull up like 10 bad man.
Our music inspires and entertains. It powers festivals and is an integral part of our history and culture. Creating good music takes hours of thought, writing, arranging, recording, and production. When people or businesses who use our music publicly or for commercial gain get a music license, they're not just keeping the law. They're also supporting music creators, producers, musicians, singers, sound engineers, and many others in the music industry. Keep the great music coming. Get a music license for your business place or event. Support music rights.
For more information, visit echorights.com. This message is brought to you by Echo and this Echo license station. Echo. Protecting music rights.
Because of how quickly the coronavirus spreads, each new case calls for increased public vigilance. Know what is happening, understand why, and comply. Think of the protocols as war tactics. Personal protection tactics. Keep 6 feet away from others. Avoid riding the bus, gathering on beaches, in bars, and shops. Public protection tactics. Quarantine yourself if you feel fluish in case you have been exposed. Call 311 or a respiratory clinic for advice. Country tactics. Partial lockdown. Supermarkets, small grocers, pharmacies, and ATMs are accessible before curfew. Total lockdown. Everywhere stays closed 24/7 for a stipulated period. Team tactics. Don't only follow the protocols. Be a protocols police. Let's win this.
Together let us win this war. Said you shall be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona. We your solution. Crystal clear, crystal clear.
Sodium free and the proud recipient of the 2018, 2019 and 2020 Grand Gold Mond Selection Quality Award. Our choice is clear, crystal clear.
Why are you suffering from aches, pains and illnesses? When there's help for you. At Health Service Center, we offer a wide range of treatment that has been scientifically proven to help you with your aches, pains and illnesses. Our ICT machine is one of the most effective devices in the health field. It has shown positive results in many health problems, such as back pains, shoulder pains, migraine headaches, pain in the knees and legs, poor circulation, arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, numbness in the feet, strokes and sports injuries. ICT, repairs, rebuild. The power to heal, the future of pain relief.
Aging gracefully is the hope for everyone. But when you age prematurely, most people think that something is wrong with you. The natural enzymes and building blocks in your skin start to deplete. So fine or deep lines and wrinkles appear, making you look much older than you really are. At Derma Clinic, we can help repair your skin and change the way you look in minutes. These treatments will make you look younger. At Derma Clinic, we treat all kinds of skin problems, such as facial lines, dark circles around the eyes, crow's feet, and frown lines, using all-natural hyaluronic acid filler. So maintain and improve your facial appearance. For more information, call 453-6417 or 485-9818.
You're watching MBC.
Thank you for staying tuned to Police Insight. Your host there, Sergeant Zachary Hippolyte. In studio with me, we have two distinguished gentlemen from the Boys Training Center. Mr. Patrick Ferron, a counselor, he's been there for a long time, lots of experience. And we also have our manager, Mr. Wang Sonson. And we have some pictures that we would like to show Shane, as we speak about gentlemen achievements. Tell us about some success stories and achievements about the in terms of the center.
Well, we've over the years we've had a few success stories. As I mentioned, some of them you may know. People usually speak about boys graduating from the center going on to Bordelais, but when the boys come to the center, there are a number of programs that they participate in, and some of them have gone on to seek employment probably on their own or seek up employment with other individuals. You have a gentleman who usually comes to the center, and he owns a welding business, and recently he has been taking a lot of our boys on after they leave the center. I know we have had boys who left the center even before my time who went on to become policemen, pastors. We even have one such boy that's also a warden at the center now. So he was a boy of the center, and now he's a warden at the center. So it's been a lot of success stories in between all what you're hearing about boys going on to Bordelais. At the center itself, we have our own success stories. We have a good sporting program where the boys participate in various sporting activities, whether it's intersecondary school, whether it's regional tournaments, boxing, football. You can see on the screen here that some of our boys playing rugby. They're part of the national rugby setup.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we have we've done some good stuff. That's the hydroponic system. Boys repairing the hydroponic system there right now. So we have hydroponics, we have aquaponics, we also have poultry. We started rabbits last summer. So we into different things at the center. We also have a woodwork shop where boys make furniture. We've made furniture. We've partnered with Goodwill. to build beds for some houses that they built in the Babono area a few years ago. We recently built some lunch tables for the youth empowerment program. So there are a lot of things that we do in collaboration with probably other agencies, and within the center itself, we have made strides over the years.
Wish to add on to that, Mr. Ferrer?
Yes. One of the things I like to point out when we talk about success stories, we know from experience that generally speaking, a child's path is being created based on how he is being or she is being raised in the community. And for many of the kids who come to us, they would have already been on a path that would sooner or later see them becoming entangled in a deeper way with the law. Many of them come with presenting behavioral problems of all sorts. We know from fact, from research, that many of the persons who end up, let's say, at an adult prison, they come with, as it were, presenting mental health problems. And we're not talking about people mad or people like to look at it in society. Mental health problems, anxiety, depression, dealing with issues of attachment, dealing with trauma, dealing with early exposure to a lot of negative factors in the home environment or in the social environment which were pushing them along a certain path. So to the extent that a number of these kids come to the Boys Training Center and do not continue on that path to prison or just a life of crime, is a testimony to successfully diverting them to a path of success. Added to that, which many people again do not really seek to understand, there are persons who don't recognize that when boys come to the center, if they go right back into the very community or the environment that would have been part of them being groomed to travel along that path, when they go back to that very environment, what is going to happen? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. And so one of the things that many people in the society do not understand or think about, don't blame the Boys Training Center because you hear of a boy who was at the Boys Training Center who ended up as an adult at the adult prison. Understand, it's simple. If persons are not supported holistically in every sense of the word, not just at the Boys Training Center, but they're still at risk if they go back to an environment or a setting that would have been instrumental in programming them for a certain path in life. And so we want persons to understand that, Mr. Hippolyte.
That's right.
So that we can have bigger and better discussions in an intelligent way, rather than somebody listening to the news to say, hey, did you hear that somebody went to Bordelais who was at the Boys Training Center? No, I didn't hear that. Tell me. Oh, come on, people.
Excellent. And I love the passion of Mr. Ferrer, you know. Let's open up the lines, Shane. 4533-911. 4533-911. If you have any questions for my guest, just call. Okay, great. Making sure that is working properly. You can also hook me up on the WhatsApp texting platform, 7200401, 7200401. Okay, I think I have a message here already. Let me just check this out. Okay, do you have a call? Let's take that call. Good night, caller. Welcome to Police Inside.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Thank you. I would just like to say very interesting topic, and congratulations to Mr. Solomon for actually working really hard to highlight the positive often in society. We get the negative when the few incidents occur to erase the hard work. Please keep it up. Keep praying, be strong. I'm an educator, I work with children, I work with teenagers, and we know the struggles. the COVID-19 pandemic taught us that, well, not taught us, but reinforced that there's a lot of work to be done in the homes, in the communities. And raising children is the work of everybody. If we don't work together, it's not going to happen. And the blame games and, incompetencies are messing up the entire nation. So, with a society not giving boys enough of a chance to be men, to grow up, I think we failed our young men. Continue with the programs. I know of some success stories you have had. And I do look forward to working with you and the institution as we build the institution that I am from. So keep it up. Do not let the negativity kill the vision and the strength. And to both of you, keep on working.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, caller. It's always good to hear words of encouragement. When you know that you are trying your best, you know the effort that you put in, and I can assure you that we will continue to put that effort in. We will not give up, despite all the challenges that may come our way. We have some very good staff members at the Boys Training Center who are trying their utmost. And we will continue, as long as I am there as manager, we will continue to work in the interest of the boys.
Excellent. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, 4533911, 4533911. Let me just get rid of this there. Okay, great. I have a message here from the WhatsApp texting platform. Good evening, gentlemen. Is there a specific amount of time for boys to stay at the center?
Okay, so let me take that one. We have, most of us would know by now, in 2018 there were two laws that were passed, two acts. One is the Child Justice Act and the other is the Child Care Protection Adoption Act. And all of that came about through years of putting different things together to how can we better fit in with what we ought to be doing for children and young persons as a nation. It's throughout the Caribbean. It's, well, basically the world has come to that point where a greater regard for children and what happens insofar as their treatment and their care, even when they commit offenses. And there has been a significant look at how can we best keep children from, as it were, becoming entangled in institutionalized care? Or how can we keep them from being institutionalized as opposed to having them redirected into productive channels where they're presenting problems, whether offenses or whatever the situation is, can be dealt with in a way that you try your best to limit time spent in state care. So generally speaking, the length of time has dropped significantly over the years. I must say that even within my 12 years there, I have seen where, generally speaking, because earlier I remember some children would come 2 years, was already on their commitment order, but that significantly dropped. And a lot of that has to do with all the different things that you'd say work in the best interest of a particular child, where sometimes it may be the child's best interest to be there for 6 months or even a year. In other cases, I'm sure the magistrates, they look at, with the caseworkers that they are before the court, they look at all of these issues, and based on the new acts, the laws concerning juvenile justice and child care, they make sure that those things are addressed in a way that they spend as little time as possible.
Okay, let's take a call. We have a call in the line. Good night.
Good evening.
Good night, caller. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. Good night. I just want to say the program is an informative and a wonderful program.
Thank you.
I would like to say to Wong and Patrick to continue the excellent job that they have been doing. As of what I'm hearing, I just listen to the program and I'm saying is they even have cook. I probably need to come there because I'm frequent today. And all the activities that they've streamlined. I am a certified prayer counselor, and I really want to encourage one and the counselors at the boys training center to study because you see these boys come from broken homes and they need love, and not everybody is equipped to manage the boys in terms of tell them in the right path. And from just listening to the program, you know, I'm proud, I'm happy to know that at least that institution has grown from knowing what boys training center used to be and the stigma attached to it. It has grown, it has developed, and I want to say to Mom, you did an excellent job. I can see the structure, I can see the development, and it's a home away from home, and the boys are being rehabilitated. You bring to get the negativity, you know, you always have the odd people who say that incidents are always going to happen, but you keep that head on your shoulder and you move forward, you keep pushing it and you try harder. And I just want to say congratulations on a job well done, and I'm proud of what the boys doing there.
Thank you very much, Paula.
Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. Yes,
you too,
thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, caller. And I'd like to say good night to Angela Hippolyte, all the way in Choiseul. Thank you for supporting us. I have another message here from the message texting platform. If a boy has no family support whilst at the center, where does he go after he leaves the center? I don't know if you're good.
Okay, so that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Because right now we are in a situation where we have had a boy who would have been in state care for the greater part of his childhood. And he's about at that age now where he will, as it were, age out. Yes. So what we have done, there are so many different pieces of the puzzle that you'd have to put together in situations like that. We have done the homework so that persons have made it possible that he will be employed once he turns 18 shortly from now. Then different pieces of the puzzle that would include, well, who would be the supportive factors around him in terms of persons. We have done everything that we can do to try to fish out and find maybe a relative, a distant person, and we were able to do that to a limited degree, but without taking up too much time. Part of what we do is to ensure that a boy in a situation like that is not just going to be thrown, as it were, to the wolves, but everything will be done from NGOs, the government support, everything would be done to safeguard the well-being of a person like that. And we have a specific case right now that fits into that, and that's been done for him.
Thank you. I have another message here on the WhatsApp texting platform. I would like to believe this individual, I don't know if they are a staff member or if they probably related to a staff member. But this individual says, why are staff not being supported when boys are misbehaving? Some staff are being threatened, they said on a daily basis. I don't know if I would like to believe that, but let me read it as it is. Some staff are being threatened on a daily basis, and some boys are not being dealt with in an appropriate manner. Some staff have full support and some barely have. I don't know what she means by that.
I don't know what the person means by that as well, but let me just say that Boys Training Center is not a convent. You come into Boys Training Center knowing what you are coming into. As we have mentioned, we have boys from varying dysfunctional backgrounds. And when you come there, you will expect certain things from the boys that you work with. You must be tolerant, you must learn patience, and you must be very caring towards these boys. As Mr. Ferron have mentioned, we have a procedure, whether it is from a reprimand, an apology, all the way up to police intervention, which is the last resort. Okay? A boy threatening a staff member, that is the environment that you work in. That is the environment that you work in. What we must do as staff now is to try and work with this boy so that by the time he's ready to leave the Boys Training Center, he will not be threatening anyone again.
Okay.
We have various interventions, as Mr. Ferron said, whether it's calling the parents in. We tried various things. And I can tell you, and Mr. Ferron can attest to that, that when a boy comes into the center and when he leaves, you would see that change in him. You can see that change in him. Every staff member has my full support once they are operating within the rules and regulations of the center. They have my support 110%.
Excellent. Yeah. And those of you in the Facebook texting platform, thank you so much for, I see the conversation going on. This is what this show is about. I have a question here from one of our regular viewers, Dawn in the US, or who I call Dudette. How you doing, Dawn? And she asked, do you guys have a Big Brother program?
Okay, yes. We had the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of St. Lucia, which it was actually built on the same platform as what you may know as Big Brothers, Big Sisters International, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, USA, Canada. And that was actually spearheaded through the courts. We had magistrates on it, we had police officers, we had teachers. But that gradually declined over the years. Now we are in the process now of getting back to where we have a structured mentorship program after the pattern of Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Whether or not it's going to go back to that name, but it will be the same pattern where persons coming in as mentors would be trained appropriately. They would have to, as it were, pass the screen test, and then they would be inducted into that mentorship program in a way that they would be assigned boys, of course, even with the parents' consent, everything. It's a great package of accountability and everything, where they would work with a child for a structured period of time, whether 6 months, a year, generally a year, and they would have set goals that they work towards. It's not just to where a boy may see a mentor as a cosmic vending machine. What can you bring for me? What can you give me? But where they work with the boy towards particular goals so that it would have its intended purpose accomplished by the end of that time.
Hopefully, Mr. Hippolyte, you will assist us in getting that done.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely. What are some of the, as we're about to round up, what are some of the challenges faced by the Boys Training Center?
Challenges. Okay. Mr. Ferron mentioned one earlier when we alluded to the care and protection and the juvenile boys. Ideally, you would want a better structure where you could have that complete separation. But as it is right now, we work with what we have. Another key challenge is getting the right personnel that's suited to work at the Boys Training Center. Someone may be a hard worker, and as I was telling Mr. Ferron earlier, I would say that over 90% of our staff are very hard workers. But I would think that probably 40% of them are not suited for that particular environment.
I see.
So we need persons with the right mentality to work in an environment like this. So what we've started doing, we've started having psychological evaluations done of persons coming into the center. And moving forward, with the support of my permanent secretary, I've been getting a lot of support from her. That is the way that we want to go. But the biggest challenge is getting persons to know and understand the clientele that they work with and what is needed. It is not like a job on the pots where you're a stevedore. You have to mold the minds of young persons. You have to positive reinforcement. Let them know what you have. They have to model themselves after you. So by everything you do, the way you speak, your work ethic, everything about you, the aim is to have them model these behaviors.
Let me just add, hope we have a little time. Because what Mr. Sanson said, if persons are not in the frame of mind to maybe listen carefully, some persons could be offended. Because we know how it is, where if somebody were to tell us, I know you're a great worker, you're a hard worker, but this may not be the best place for you to be working. some persons could be offended by that. And there's no need for that. Because you could have somebody that fits the profile of being an A employee, an A quality employee as whatever in that department. But you take that person out and put the person in the environment where there are so many factors that will come into play in order to effectively work with troubled children. As I mentioned earlier, our first director, Mr. Celestine, look, about 2-3 years ago in the St. Lucia Star, in that interview he said he was a teacher, a trained teacher, but he had no concept how to work with delinquent boys, and he burnt out and had to leave with his wife that job quite early and move on to what he was more cut out for. It's nothing against him in terms of his capabilities. He's one of the greatest educators St. Lucia has had. And it's the same thing now with the working at the Boys Training Center. It takes a lot. It's not just where you can go to somebody you know and say, you know, I want a job. And they say, oh yeah, we have a post at the Boys Training Center. You cut out that person and put that there. It does not work like that. Because there are so many things that you have to take to the table in order to effectively understand children who are in those categories of need and how you can best help them. It's not easy, and you have to be cut out for it. So I hope we can understand that.
Last quick question before your closing remarks. I just need to put that one in. Good night to all. Very interesting, impressive and satisfying to know. But are girls not trouble too, delinquent too? Why is there not a similar sense of for girls? Any of you care to answer?
Yeah, I think it's something that is needed, but that is not for within our code.
But it's true. It's true. Because
it's essential.
Generally speaking, your pattern and how you're going to be going through behaviorally, a lot of the things that would have impressed on your development from early, whether it's attachment issues, abuse issues, traumatic issues. There are so many things that play into behavior of children and young persons. And boys as well as girls get impacted by these factors, and they have behavioral problems too.
Is the Upton Garden Center no longer?
It's not residential. It's like a day. They go there.
Oh, I see. So we need something that's actually residential for girls. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Closing remarks. We've already passed 10 o'clock. Thank you, Shane, for the extra time. Mr. Farron, you go first, and then Mr. Sonson.
Okay.
Brief closing remarks.
So brief. People say I'm too long-winded. Brief. I really hope that as we go through this period of time that we're going through, it's a high pressure period of time, the COVID-19 era, the stress that is built up in the communities, children being abused and persons reacting or overreacting in the home environment and general situations, children being impressed with a lot of negativities in the society. We all have a responsibility to our children, and to recognize that the best that we can do for our children at a time like this is we all come together, recognize their worth, their value, to put a high emphasis on how best we can help them, how best we can encourage them, how best we can motivate them. And in situations such as what we have to deal with at the center, to recognize that this is not just the center's work or the center's task, but all of us as a country, all of us as St. Lucians, we have a responsibility to work together and see how best we can help the process of helping our children who, for no fault of their own in many situations, they end up as care and protection kids or juveniles in conflict with the law. Join us and help us as we join hands and hearts and go forward helping the generation that's coming after us.
Okay, Mr. Hippolyte, let me once again thank you for having us. As I close, I just want to ensure the general public that at the Boys Training Center we'll continue to do our very best to ensure that the young men that are leaving our center leave much better than they come in when they left the various communities. This is a selfless profession. This is not a job that you take up for fame or recognition. This is about helping others, not about yourself. And I want to assure you that as I go about making the changes that I want to see at the Boys Training Center, you may still get word in the media of things happening at the Boys Training, because you're taking persons out of the comfort zone. And for too long, some people have been in the comfort zone, and it is time for the best interest of the boys, that some people are taken out of that comfort zone. As Mr. Ferron rightly said, this is not an environment for everyone to work in. You may be a very good worker, but this might not be the environment for you. And persons need to know that it's not about them. It is about the boys that we serve. It will always be about them. Without the boys, there is no Boys Training Center. So I leave this with you tonight. As I said previously, there's an open invitation. Anyone who wants to come to the center, who wants to see the programs that we have, who wants to see how the boys are, you are free to come. The invitation is open. I thank you once again, Mr.
Thank you, sir, Christopher, and thank you, Mr. Sonson. And
so
thank you for all those who called, who text, those in the Facebook chatting platform. Thank you so much for supporting the police and this show. Stay safe. See you next Tuesday. Good night.